Now about languages. And I know the title of the video makes it sound like I speak so many languages, but I only speak Portuguese and English. And I'm not very good at either of them, to be honest. They were always the two subjects in school that I've struggled the most with. I think that's why I think about it so much, and that's why I'm so self-conscious, because I've always struggled with languages. But right now, I think my English and my Portuguese are basically at the same level, not accounting for my accent, of course, because in English I have a much thicker accent. But in Portuguese, I've always had an accent too. From the countryside of my state, it's a very recognizable accent in Brazil. So I've always had people point out my accent, how I pronounce certain words, different words that I use that other people wouldn't use. So I've always been paying attention to how I speak because of that. And also my grandmother had a Japanese accent, and people would point that out too. So I don't know. For all those reasons, I've always been paying attention to languages and how people express themselves in that way. When I got to move in the United States, where I moved most of my moving around was in the United States, and was living with other people from very different backgrounds and different languages. It was interesting to see how, depending on the language, people communicate in such a different way, and they have different manners. That of course comes from the culture, but some of it comes attached to the language too. So they would translate things in a different way, ask for things, or complain about things, or be grateful about things in different ways and in different intensities. And eventually, when we got closer and I would ask more about it, I would understand why they would speak that way and the nuances that the languages have when translating to English and all the meaning that is lost. Because I know that when translating any language to another language, there's always something that gets lost. But it was interesting to see, and especially now living with my husband, who is from a very different background than me. He's from Thailand and he's very Thai, and I'm from Brazil, of course, and I've been living here now for a very long time. So our backgrounds don't exactly match. So it's always fun when he says something that makes no sense to me, and then I ask him to explain the meaning of what he's trying to say, and it's something that I would have never guessed. I think that's why it's also become so important to me to find my voice. I don't like saying that. I feel like it's so cheesy, but I do think because I've always felt a little bit out of place with all the moving and all the stereotypes that people project onto me and everything that I've talked about in this video and the previous videos. I feel like I wasn't willing to put the effort to try and improve the way that I communicate, not only the way that I can talk about practical things in life, like ordering food and having small talk or things about work. I've always kind of didn't think it would be worth it to try and express my feelings or all my inner thoughts in a way that is clear to other people. But I think it's important now. Even when I was doing therapy, I chose to do it in Portuguese because Portuguese being my native language, it has much more emotion to me. There are some things that I can speak in English and they can be horrible or amazing, and they don't really have the same emotional weight to me. So when I chose to get into therapy years ago already, I made a conscious decision to do it in Portuguese because I wanted to first express those things and talk about past experiences that happened in Portuguese. I wanted to talk about those in Portuguese because when I decided to start therapy, I was here for a very long time already, but I still didn't feel like my English and my Portuguese were at the same level. So I didn't want to learn new things about me in English first. I wanted to learn those things in Portuguese first because I think it would have an emotional weight, I don't know if that's the right way to describe it, but it just felt more real to me in a way. And now that it's been years since that's done and I'm not doing therapy anymore, I felt like I'm ready to go over everything that I already talked about in Portuguese. Now I can do it in English because that's all resolved already in my mind and there's no breakthrough, at least not that I know of. Maybe rewatching myself, I will realize something else. But now I feel like I can do it in English, and it's good to be able to be clear about myself and my own experiences and be able to communicate those things. For some reason, it became important to me to go over all of this in English now. I keep trying to not talk about it, but eventually it comes back and I start overthinking. So I just talk about it and put it out because I think it will help me. And one last thing, I was watching Amy Poehler's podcast, and there's one episode, I don't remember who was the guest or what she was talking about, but she says that clarity is kindness. And that really stuck with me. I was thinking about all the videos already about languages and accents and everything else. And I was like, yeah, I guess I really agree with that. I think when we are clear about our intentions and expectations and our feelings, it is kindness to the other person. So the other person doesn't need to keep guessing or feel insecure. And that's something that I really value too. So I want to get better at it. One big problem that I have too is that if I'm feeling angry or upset or stressed, I tend to shut down and eventually I will explode. So I think being clear and being able to put what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking into words in a clear way, it's good for me and good for everyone around me. Okay, I think I'm starting to talk in circles already. So the next one is going to be about social media. I'm gonna go write some notes while you see the credits, so you can watch the previous videos. What kind? I'm not writing anything.